the balance between promoting positivity and being real.
Yeah.
Because that's social media is a highlight reel, but you don't want it to be to the detriment of somebody watching thinking that your life is perfect or that the campaigning is easy.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Journey Time, where we learn all about people's journeys, the highs, the lows, everything in between. Right now we are in Seattle, joined by the one and only Girmay Zahilay. Welcome to Journey Time.
Thank you. What's up, everybody?
Thank you for being here. First of all, beautiful city. Can you just tell us where we are?
Yeah, the dope part about Seattle is that we're surrounded by water. So right now behind us is Lake Washington, which is a beautiful lake. On the other side we have Puget Sound. On the other side of that we have the Pacific Ocean. So we got a lot of water everywhere, and it's just a beautiful city filled with nature.
It's really beautiful. First time in Seattle, so I'm so excited that we're able to link for this interview and share some of your journey. And I know you're a very inspiring individual doing dope things, so we're going to dive into some of that. But we're actually shooting this on World Refugee Day, and I want to ask you about that because you do have this compelling story of, born in Sudan, came here with your family, overcome a lot. Can you talk about that journey with your family moving here to Seattle?
Yeah, so my family moved out of Ethiopia into Sudan in the 80s. They were displaced out there as refugees, and once my brother and I were born, we boarded a plane and we flew across the Atlantic Ocean to the US. We grew up in South Seattle here, and I think my story, the story that I just told, is the story of a lot of people in Seattle. A lot of people started their lives as refugees, fleeing from one place and finding belonging in another place. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity that my family had to live here, and I'm thankful for all of the places that bring people in and provide safety and opportunity. And for a lot of people, those opportunities are not as open as they should be, and that's what I'm trying to fight for.
So let's talk about that. You kind of hinted at it, fighting for. You are running for King County Council.
That's right, yeah.
Let me just say, you've been making a lot of noise. Okay?
Thank you.
You've been traveling around, first of all, the country, having different events to support your campaign because you're not taking any funding from PACs, correct?
No corporate PAC money. None.
Wow.
None at all.
And you've raised more than $100,000.
Yep, in just a few months. It's been great.
Have you done this before?
No, I haven't done it before. Part of our strategy is to make this campaign a national campaign. Like, it's local policy, but for our generation as millennials, we don't see ourselves as bound by any state borders or local borders. We're all one country. We all face similar problems, and so a child struggling in Seattle is the same as a child struggling in New York. So for me, it was leaning into the digital strategy of advertising the campaign, reaching to my networks in New York, LA, DC, since I've lived in these places, and making this a more national campaign. Young people of color who want to do something good, especially because there's this concept that I just recently learned about called transferability, which says that a policy that's really good, that's done in San Francisco, can be done well in Seattle as well. So you care about local politics in another city, not only because you care about the kids and the senior citizens and all the people struggling in that city, but also because if a policy works well in one place, it can also work well in another place. So I can point to San Francisco and say, they just closed their juvenile hall. There's precedent for that. Let's do that here too. I can point to Stockton, California, where my friend is implementing universal basic income for his city, and say, we can do that here too. So there's a lot of things that work well with it, and I'm really glad that our community on the national level has been excited about the campaign.
So on the same page about, going on this campaign trail, you've really been able to utilize social media in ways that I would say are innovative. You've been able to recruit volunteers through Instagram stories, you're doing it through Facebook, you're doing it through Twitter. Talk about how you've been able to tap into social media to recruit people, to get your campaign out there, raise awareness and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, one of the biggest goals that I have in this campaign is to make it more inclusive and bring new voices in, bring a new generation in, and you can't do that unless you use social media, and you have to use it effectively. And so Instagram has been a great tool for conveying a message and bringing in volunteers. So I update my Instagram story and I use like the poll feature to say yes or no, can you join us this weekend? The question feature to get people's feedback on certain policies that I'm trying to pursue. So I'll put out a question like, should we end youth incarceration? And I want to get a dialogue going, especially in a medium that a lot of people don't use to discuss policy, but people stay super engaged. They answer the question there, and then I'll screenshot and share their response and ask more people to chime in. And so it creates a great buzz and energy around the campaign, but it's also a great tool for bringing new voices in, and that's been really exciting for me, and it's been helpful also for fundraising. So part of that, you asked me earlier about the fundraising, and that definitely has helped, because if I have a specific goal, I can just use the poll feature and ask people, can you chip in $10? Can you chip in $20? And all people have to do is click yes or yes, and then I'll follow up.
Yes or yes.
Yeah. So I never ever give people an option of no. So
there's a secret, y'all.
Yeah, don't give them the option of no, because if I say, can you make it to my event, I could say yes or no, or I could say, have you RSVP'd or will you RSVP?
Yeah.
And so why give them the no option, right? That helps a lot, and yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. And I know you've been able to even take criticism through social media. I remember there was one point where you share people's posts about maybe they'll give you some insight on something that you were discussing that you didn't know, and you're very transparent about that. You'll own up to that. Talk about just being able to own up to, maybe things you don't know or things you learn along the process.
Yeah, something that I think I can actually do better is showing the challenges of running a campaign. I'm sure you face this a lot all the time, but the balance between promoting positivity and being real.
Yeah.
Because that's social media is a highlight reel, but you don't want it to be to the detriment of somebody watching thinking that your life is perfect or that the campaigning is easy. There are so many challenges. People are disagreeing with you constantly. I learned real quick not to check the comments section of articles anymore, because the very first time somebody wrote an article about me, I was like, oh, I'm a nice guy, everybody's gonna love me.
Yeah.
And of course I went straight to the comments and they were just roasting me. I was like, oh snap. They were talking mess about me on there, but it's okay. So the question was, how do I feel about people disagreeing with me? I love it, and I'm gonna promote it, and so I'll share as much as I'll share people agreeing with me, I'll also share people disagreeing with me, because that's the only way that you're gonna have a real conversation.
It's great that you're documenting that. It's great that you're sharing your story, your journey, your highs and lows. Keep that going, because that is important. Because in this world where we live in with social media, everyone thinks your life is all this stuff. Here you are trying to be real. So why is it important to be real with people?
Because if you make it seem like everything is positive and perfect, that will make people feel like they have to be positive and perfect to achieve something. And that's not true. I'm a regular person, I'm a flawed person, and if I don't show that, I think I ultimately hurt the people that I'm trying to help.
And so a lot of strategy and just thinking about how to move forward and push the needle forward, not just in Seattle, but of course nationally and even globally probably too. I mean, you're reaching people in other countries, your heritage, your background being an Ethiopian American, Black man. Can you talk about how that sort of shaped you into the man that you are today?
Absolutely. There's so many layers there. We start off being born in another country. I was Ethiopian, I was a refugee, I was born in Sudan, and then you come to the United States and you inherit a legacy of racial dynamics that maybe you didn't have in another country. But once I come to the US context, I'm a Black man, and I inherit a lot of the things that go along with that, how people view me in the world, where my family grew up in the south part of Seattle because of redlining and race-based policies that force certain people to live in certain parts of the neighborhood and of the city. So I see myself as both Ethiopian and a Black American, and there are responsibilities that come along with both of those identities, and I know that I need to reach and communicate with the younger people and make sure that I'm fulfilling my responsibility as someone who cares about his community, and race and identity have a lot to do with that.
And that, I know those experiences, some of which may have led to your nonprofit that you started called Rising Leaders, where they serve to empower middle school students in multiple states. Talk about that nonprofit work that you do, reaching these communities that you're describing.
So Neither of my parents went to high school or college, and so I knew that there was a struggle that comes with navigating these institutions when you don't have that kind of support. Not to say my parents did everything that they could to raise us,
Sure.
but the language barriers, the economic barriers, and not having that experience themselves, they couldn't help me the way that they would want to, and that's the story of a lot of people that I know as well. So I got lucky in that I had certain teachers who reached out, certain community centers who were supportive, and so I wanted to make sure that once I came to a position where I did go to college and law school, that I could provide the same opportunities for other youth who fit that background. So Rising Leaders is a nonprofit that I started with some friends when I was living in New York, where we partner with local middle schools to give underserved students mentors and life skills training. Every single student that we work with gets one mentor to work with them for their whole 7th grade year and their whole 8th grade year, and it's a way of ramping them up into high school, because once you get to high school, everything starts mattering, your grades, your extracurriculars.
Absolutely.
And it's grown since then. So we started it in New York, but now it's in South Seattle and Washington DC as well, and we're serving dozens of kids around the country, and it feels really good, and
So
hopefully
dope.
we're making some positive impact.
And they're always looking for mentors, right?
Yep.
So-
RisingLeadersInc.org or at Rising Leaders Inc. on Instagram.
By the way, we have Stanford grad, and you went to law school at Penn.
Yeah.
So, it's just cool to see, like you said, a refugee came to this country, here you are going to these top schools, you delivered a message, at your law school graduation, and here you are now. What message do you have maybe to anybody who is facing challenges, whether it's coming from another country or growing up in a neighborhood where they don't have the same resources as others, or maybe they're overcoming some sort of battle? What can you share that sort of kept you going to reach all that with maybe anyone watching this that is going through something?
Yeah, it's hard to give advice because everybody faces very unique situations, and I don't want to pretend to speak for everybody. Yeah, but if the problem, some of the challenges you face are economic, or that you don't feel like you have the right support systems, there are so many people out there that want to help. And my goal with Rising Leaders, and even with running for office, is being a bridge between needs and resources, because resources are out there and needs are out there, and we just need to find ways to create structures so that those two can meet. And so there are resources out there for you. There are people who care, and I hope that those of us who are in positions to be that bridge will continue to do so. I know I will. I know Hannah Joy will, and that's what the whole point of your platform has been, is to provide positivity and support for people who are in need and people who are looking for some extra inspiration. That's what you've been doing for a long time, and we appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Also, he's rocking the shirt. I didn't even tell him to wear this, y'all. He did this on his own.
Yeah.
So appreciate you rocking that. I do appreciate that. So on that note, I always ask people how they promote positivity in their world. And I know you have, if you follow him on social media, you'll see he has a lot of friends. How do you, first of all, you're all over. Like, do you sleep at all? Do you
These bags say I don't.
Okay,
so.
Gotcha. So that's a no. But how do you promote positivity in your world? What are you doing to do that?
Yeah, how do I promote positivity? I'm definitely on the gram posting positive things all the time.
Moves too.
But also just doing the work. There's a lot of good work to be done out there to help people, whether that's through the nonprofit, through policy, through organizing. Everybody can do it, and a lot of people are doing it through whatever gift that they've been bestowed with. I know there are people who do it through art, through music, through organizing. Just keep doing that, because there's always a way for you to share your gift with the world, and it doesn't have to be the way everybody else does it. You're doing it through your platform. I'm trying to do it through policy and through the nonprofit. I have friends who do it through music and through business. You can do it in any way you can, and that's what I'm trying to do too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I hear that. Check him out, man. You're doing some really great things. Just encourage you to keep it going. And I do want to sort of wrap this up, because I know you got other meetings. We have an event going on.
Knocking on doors, yeah.
He's going to be knocking on doors. You can catch him if you live in Seattle. But you may have not been able to predict this route for you 2 years ago.
Yeah, no.
Right?
No.
And here you are taking this chance to earn a position that will allow you to have a greater impact in your community, serve those. Just what do you have to say about taking that leap and being able to chase that dream, not knowing knowing necessarily what's at the end of the tunnel.
That's probably the biggest lesson of my life in the past couple of years. I was just talking to my friend Misaker about this, but there's a speech that Steve Jobs gave at Stanford graduation in 2005. Everybody should look it up on YouTube. It's a beautiful speech, Steve Jobs Stanford commencement speech, and the most notable quote in it that for me was that you need to be able to follow your gut and trust that your intuitions are leading you in the right direction, even if you don't see the full picture yet. You have to have faith that the dots will connect in the future, because that's the only way that you'll go in the direction that is true to yourself. And so he was talking about how he, dropped out of Reed College and started taking random classes that didn't really make sense to him at the time, but it felt right. And so he took this typography class to teach him how to do calligraphy. And then some years down the line, that was how Apple set itself apart from its competitors, is they had this beautiful typography on their computers, and that set them apart. At the time, he wasn't thinking, I'm gonna, make this so that I can build a giant corporation. He was just following his intuition and having faith that the dots will connect in the future. And so that's what I feel like I did when I came back to Seattle. I felt like I wanted to be closer to my family and make an impact in my community. I didn't know what the full picture would look like, but I followed, I had faith that the dots would connect in the future, and it feels like they are, and I'm excited to keep doing the work.
Wow, keep it going, keep it going. Certainly I know there are a lot of things in store for you in the future, and wish you all the best with everything you're doing.
You too, Hannah Joy. Thank you so much for this. Hug it out.
Yes, yeah. So we're going to wrap it up there. Of course, we could probably talk all day long, but one last thing, how can people find you if they want to stay connected? Yeah, so my Instagram is @Girmay, @GIRMAY. My campaign website is electgirmay.com. Girmay, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Hannah Joy. Of course, we appreciate you all tuning in. As always, sending you lots of positive vibes, love, and peace from our hearts to yours, especially with these hearts on today. Yep. So thank y'all. Peace out. See ya. Bye.